Hello, folks, and welcome back to Can't Teach Size a Hockey Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Lyss, and I'm joined by Brady today. It has been many weeks since we've done a podcast on this, yet coming on here, getting a nod from Brady and saying, "Hello, everyone, welcome back." Sitting on a podcast with Brady is not something that's been weeks. We do this every single day, it feels like. Brady and I have been super busy right now over at Game Over Winnipeg with SGPN, which has been so much fun. But our own side projects have kind of been put on the back burner just because we have to watch every single Jets game and, talk about it and get all that stuff figured out. So it's been obviously a ton of fun and we wouldn't have it any other way. But this project, this Can't Teach Size, it's, well, we're here now. That's what matters, right?
We brainstormed this all last summer. Of wanting to do kind of a more general NHL show and pay attention to more of the NHL. And then we both got offered jobs to focus and only watch the Jets, which, if you didn't know, 82 games in a year. I mean, we didn't do the first, quarter of the season, but it's a lot. The Jets play a lot. Like, I don't know how Steve does like LFRs after every game. Because doing them just like, what we do, we have kind of like a 50-50 split with some games we do together. So it's kind of like we both do like 66% of the games kind of thing.
I'd say so, yeah.
And it's just like, that in and of itself is exhausting. But again, that's on top of, working a full-time job. And obviously Liz is doing school. And are you working on the side too? I can't even remember. It's too much.
I have all kinds of commitments and whatnot going on. But yeah, so it's like every other day you're sitting down and you're like, oh shit, I gotta watch a Jets game and talk about it. And then you're just scheduling your life and trying to figure things out. And then you're like, oh yeah, we also have this thing over here. I still post pretty regularly on our TikTok account too. And it's so funny. I'm like, I'm just gonna pretend we don't have a podcast here because I'm not sending them any updates because we're not posting anything. But here we are. We have lots to talk about because when you have a show that's for general NHL that's not Jets specific, like our game overs are, and you don't record every other day, there's a ton of stuff that needs to be covered and that, we're not here to break news. We're not here to, keep you up to date on things, but we're here to tell you how we feel about the things that are going on. So there's lots to talk about, lots of opinions coming your way in this episode, I'm sure.
Yeah, and a lot of time to make up for, which I think, honestly, with the way the NHL works, it's not really all that fun to, comment on things that happened 2 or 3 weeks ago because the news cycle keeps on going. So I think we're probably going to talk about more stuff ahead of, in the future. We're also going to, I'm sure, comment on some stuff that's going on at the moment as well, too. We plan to do some All-Star game talk, some trade deadline primer. That's coming up on March 3rd. So we're just over a month out. So we're going to kind of talk about all that stuff as well, too. So it should be hopefully a fun and good episode. But I guess whoever's listening to this can be the judge of that.
Absolutely.
Where did we want to start here? I'll let you pick. Like,
it wouldn't be a Can't Teach Size episode with Brady unless we didn't talk a little bit about the Winnipeg Jets to start, When Brady and I jump on game overs, often we try and talk about the game at hand that we just watched and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's listen. I sit here and I feel like I live a life of privilege because I every time we look at anything, it's like, hey, at least we're not the Vancouver Canucks. And I'm sure we'll get into that at some point. But the Winnipeg Jets are frauds. And I have been wondering that all year. And then I got to a certain point where I crossed a line in, around Christmas time, before Christmas. And I was like, you know what? No, they're not frauds. This team is real. I like them. And just this month has really solidified for me. I was wrong. They're frauds.
Yeah. As we record this, the Jets have not played since their game against Buffalo, which I had just a lovely time, just the best, most fun time breaking that game down on Game Over Winnipeg. After the Jets played maybe their worst game in like genuinely, I think, years. Because I think a lot of it comes down to expectations versus results, and the Jets haven't been great the past few years, but I think that you can make up for that in the sense of, you have guys like Connor Hellebuyck playing out of his mind, keeping the Jets in games, and that is usually, something you can look to and feel happy about. But also at the same time, the expectations around the team have been pretty low over the past few years. And so this year, now that we're at this point in the season, Jets have been top of the West, and they play Buffalo, who again, credit to Buffalo, they're in the playoff picture now, but in general, not exact. I don't expect them to make playoffs with how incredible the East is. Lyss, did you did you watch any of the Buffalo game? If you didn't, it's okay. Did you catch any sort of? Because I remember seeing you tweet or respond to someone being like, "What the hell did I miss tonight?" From someone who from someone who didn't watch the game likely and just got the vibes around the team. What do you think happened?
Yeah, so I that was the Thursday night, and I once again, we're talking before I'm busy. I just booked and busy. I got lots of stuff going on, and I was at school doing a case prep from like 6 to 9 p.m. presented at 9. Got reamed out in feedback from my coaches till like 11:30, and then I went on Twitter and I was like, "All right, I wonder what happened." Because that game, I had one of our corporate partners at school had a box lined up for us, and they were going to take us out for dinner, and they had all kinds of um they had all a nice box for us with all kinds of food and snacks and stuff like that. And I couldn't go because I was busy. And I was like, man, this sucks so much. Honestly, obviously, I would always take a game in a box and a free dinner and all that kind of fun stuff beforehand. But I tweeted that on my Twitter circle. I was like, what did I miss tonight? And then I quote tweeted our friend Jackson's tweet, and he replies, he's like, the Jets didn't have a shot for 17 minutes in the second period. And I was like, pardon my French, but what the fuck? I can't hear anything you're saying if you're talking, by the way.
Oh,
So
sorry. I'm a fiend on the mute button. What can I say? Um, yeah, the Jets did not have a shot for 15 minutes and 46 seconds in the second period. And probably it went on a little bit in the third as well too. Oh my god. I don't even understand how to break down that game. If you want a key into my mind, I would suggest going to listen to the post game. As we sit here right now, it's before they play Philadelphia tonight, and boy oh boy, I never thought I would say this, but tonight's game against the lowly Philadelphia Flyers is a must win for the Jets. Um, because if they don't,
oh
it's just
god.
like, well, actually, if they don't, maybe some fun things will happen on the trade market. But yeah, I that Buffalo game, man, it was so frustrating. It was like genuinely like I feel awful for anyone who went to that game, who paid money to be in the building. Um, because like I heard from people, my dad has seasons, and he was saying that like people were yelling, "I want my money back," which is very fair because that was like just an atrocious game by the Jets. Um, but regardless, they right now they sit like top of the West still, like near top of the West, and it's just like you can't be getting run out by the Buffalo Sabres. You can't be not shooting the puck on the Buffalo Sabres, who don't have the best goaltending, who don't have the best defense. Like, they're a great offensive team. They're one of the best teams in the league in regards to goals for. But like, uh, you got to make them pay if that's the case. If they play the run and gun fun style, you got to be run and gun fun style against them. You can't just try to go into a shell and then do nothing. Like, it was giving shades of Habs versus Jets sweep, where the only thing the Jets could do was go boards and out, and then they would just bring it back into the zone. Anyways, that's neither
I
here nor there.
no, I genuinely, Brady and I were talking about before, we're like, hey, what do we want to talk about in this episode and all that kind of stuff. And we were looking at things, and I think each of us at least 4 times said, God, the East is so good. Right now, if the Winnipeg Jets were sitting in the Eastern Conference, I don't want to specify division, but in the Eastern Conference, where do you think they would fall?
Me? Are you asking? Are you
I
asking me
am
that?
asking you. I am.
I would guess that they're like, I don't know, in the East, probably like sixth or seventh. I would say something like that.
Yeah,
Probably, is that right?
if even. Bro,
Like,
I don't know. No, I'm just wondering, like, but because,
well,
but it would change a lot of the scope of things, right? Because their matchups would be different. They would be playing against those Eastern teams more regularly than their regular
of
West
course,
opponents.
yeah.
So I think that genuinely, like, if you threw them into an Eastern Conference schedule, like, they'd be out of a wild card spot.
Yeah, no, that's very fair. I'm looking at the the standings right now. The Jets are sitting with 63 points. They're just behind the Stars. They're 3 points behind the Stars, who have 51 games played, so they have a game in hand. So, but still technically behind them. But sitting at 63 points, we can look at the East, and just the Atlantic itself has the Bruins at 80 points. By God, they are a juggernaut. Um, I like they have 6 losses all year, 6 regulation.
So messed up.
Like it's almost February. It's almost February, and they have not hit double digits in losses. And then the Leafs are sitting at 68 points, the Lightning at 63. So we'd be tied with the Lightning just on a points basis. And that's just the Atlantic. The Metro then next. Hurricanes are sitting at 70 points, Devils sitting at 68, Rangers at 62. So we'd be above the Rangers. So yeah, around sixth in the East. I don't know. It's going to be really interesting because it's like you look as a Jets fan, we're all sitting here going like, this is the year to go for it because like you look at the West, and the West is just kind of wide open. It seems like all the top teams that you would expect to be up there, like, the Colorado's sitting in 4th in the Central. Like I'm not saying they will at all, but they, of all teams, are a very surprising team that it could potentially miss playoffs. I very much doubt they do. They will make playoffs, and they will likely go very far in the playoffs because they're the fucking Avalanche. But like, I just the West is so much more wide open. You have the Kings sitting at the top of the Pacific, which is a team that like people were like, yeah, they'd be like, they should be in the playoff picture, but not the top of the Pacific. You have teams like the Oilers and the Golden Knights who are like 3rd and 4th in that division, and I expect them to continue up. It's still a tight race, but like the Flames are sitting at 5th. And that's kind of the cutoff of like decent teams in the Pacific, because under that you get the Canucks, the Sharks, and the Ducks. The Canucks specifically are an absolute tire fire, which we could talk about also if you'd like. But yeah, the West, it's very weird because the West is so wide open, and yet at the end of the day, you do have to face an Eastern team. Even if the Jets or whichever team you're a fan of, makes it far in the playoffs, makes it to the Cup Finals, you got Boston to face, or any team that was able to beat Boston. Like,
yeah, I don't know. Playoffs get weird though, Like I still think that if any team from the West that makes it to the conference final, like I don't foresee it being a similar skew to the whole Montreal versus Tampa thing that we saw 2 years ago. I don't think it's going to be that drastic. I think by that point the team will have figured it out a bit, but also maybe I'm optimistic and I have a Western bias. Who knows? But as long as it's not the fucking Oilers, so.
They won't make it that far. They don't have the defense or anything, and they still got to trade Jesse Puljujarvi. They don't have the cap to make it that far. But anyways, what? I actually do want to talk about the Canucks. I feel like this is a good little segue. I think we do have to mention them. I don't, we're not going to hit on the whole Bruce Boudreau thing. I think most people have kind of understand that everyone's kind of on the same page of it's atrocious. It's a bit of a joke of a franchise for what they did to Bruce. But now we are 3 games into the Talkit into the Talkit era.
3?
Yeah, I think so, right? They've played Chicago, Seattle, and Columbus.
They said 3 weeks. I was like, what the heck?
Oh, no. 3 games. 3 games into the Talkit era. Of course, a big win coming against the Chicago Blackhawks, and you see like them posting the video of Talkit being like, "Great game, guys. You played hard. We got to keep getting in there." Blah, blah. The whole classic just buzz points.
Like what my dad said to me after my petite U14 ringette game.
Yeah, exactly. And then and then they played the Seattle Kraken. Also, like, it's very funny that Bruce Boudreau commented on it, being like, I don't know why they kept me around. Maybe it's because this is my last game. Maybe because the next games are Chicago, Seattle, and Columbus, which is funny to include Seattle in there because Seattle's really good this year. But as soon as they played Seattle, they had their big win against Chicago. Lyss, what was the quote that Talkit had after the Seattle game where they lost 6-1?
What was the non-quote that he had? I don't know what to say.
I think that was verbatim what he said. I think that was...
It might have been.
You could have said those in
Like,
quote marks.
how are you at a loss for words for your team on the second game that you're coaching them? How much of a nightmare is that locker room and that the composition of that team that a coach can come in and be like, no words. Like, and even like you said, the video you saw of like the great guys, great game, great win, good play hard. You can give a non-answer like that, like if you want, like if you have nothing to say. But if you're that befuddled by what just happened that you can't even come up with an I don't know, man. I don't know.
It's very funny because coming being in a Winnipeg Jets centric kind of team or podcast. We're both Jets fans. The off season we had with having all the coaching potential. We're gonna get Scott Arniel, or maybe we're gonna get Barry Trotz, maybe we're gonna get Rick Tocchet. Rick Tocchet was one of the guys bandied about here in Winnipeg for a while, and I find it really really funny that Rick Bowness now, one of the things we've praised about him is his ability to like come out after a game, even if they've won, and be like, I thought that was a pretty rough game. We're taking too long of shifts. It's good that we came out with the win, but we can't play like that. Whereas Rick Tocchet on his second game in a loss, where it's like almost like this is the perfect opportunity for him to be like, listen, guys, I'm the boss here. This was a fucking joke. And all he said was, "I'm at a loss for words." Maybe the silence is deafening for the the room. I doubt it because it seems like they need some a bit of a whipping to be like, guys, let's get this going. Because apparently they still want to try and contend this year, which is hilarious. Like, well, I mean, normal, yeah. They're still trying to re-sign Bo Horvat apparently too, which is hilarious. But
yeah, like I think that that game is the opportunity for Rick Tocchet to stand there and be like, JT Miller needs to learn how to play. Like JT Miller is what people or what Mark Scheifele was for however many years. Like it's just like
worse.
You have that opportunity. Oh, he's much worse. Yeah. But like you have that opportunity to go out there and hold your players accountable because you're brand new. Like you said, Rick Bowness came in and he said these things like, our veteran players didn't do this, that, whatever. Paul Maurice never would have said that because these long-standing, complicated relationships, whatever. You don't have those yet, Rick. So say what you need to say because you have the opportunity, and maybe that public defamation of these individuals will be what leads them to make those changes because nothing's worked so far. Like, what the heck?
Yeah, and like the funny thing is, I like Rick Tocchet was brought into the Canucks organization as like the players coach. He was the Phil Kessel whisperer when he was an assistant coach with who is it, Pittsburgh. But his head coaching like resume is pretty garbage. Like he's a losing coach if I'm not mistaken. Of course, that's heavily skewed by coaching Arizona for years. But at the same time, like they've almost already admitted that Rick Tocchet was brought in to fix JT Miller, and it's like I think like was Bruce Boudreau not on JT Miller? I understand sometimes you do need a change, but like is Rick Tocchet really like the guy who's gonna connect with JT Miller? Is JT Miller worth changing your entire organization for? Like, I don't think he is. And obviously, this goes way back to, the fact that they signed him in the first place, which was a mistake considering, your captain who's having a career year, is going to have to be traded very soon, which we'll get into our trade board soon. It's just insane to me that like this is the course that we've gone down. And I grew up a Canucks fan. Obviously, we didn't have the Jets here, and like it's one of those things where I watch from afar, and I'm really sad to see how it's going, but also I'm like, Jesus Christ, thank God I jumped off that ship. Like I feel so bad for all the game over Vancouver guys like Clay and Kasha. I always pronounce it wrong.
Kaya and Sam, yeah. Oh man. Every day they just come out and they're like, what are we even gonna say? It's so funny. All three of them are great. They have the personality to manage it, but it's like I don't envy them in the slightest.
No, I'm happy with doing one blow up game every now and then with
Yeah.
I will say, I had fun after the Buffalo show. It was a lot of fun. But yeah. So it's neither here nor there. And continuing their weird management in Vancouver, they re-signed Andrei Kuzmenko, 2 years, 5.5 each year. Obviously this isn't a news podcast, but Liz, initial thoughts on the Kuzmenko deal. What do you think there?
Yeah, it's the kind of thing where it's like if you just look at it like it's a good player, it's a good AAV, whatever. But why? Like, if you're gonna be blowing, like, I guess if they're still looking to contend, then sign him for longer. If you're looking to blow it all up, trade him. Like, it just seems like a weird deal. Like, the bridge just doesn't seem to fit the trajectory of the team right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, I definitely see what you're saying. I agree. I actually like the deal a little. Like, I actually don't mind the deal. My one thing is, like, I think we're all approaching doomsday for the Canucks. Eventually, they're trading Horvat. Eventually, they're trading Luke Shen, whoever is going to be moved there. But with this deal, I look at this and I'm like, okay, you know what? You know what they might have done with this deal? They might have actually added more value to Andrei Kuzmenko as a trade piece. I doubt they're going to trade him. Obviously, you need guys on the team to whatever. But this is the year where like they should be tanking. They should be tanking, even though no one tanks in the NHL, according to Gary Bettman. They should absolutely be tanking for Connor Bedard, because that's one player that automatically changes the outlook of your franchise. And even if not, Fantilli, Mitch.
Gonna say, like, that to me, this is the year to tank more than anything, because the issue with like tanking in a year when there's only like the first overall pick is really good. It's like, what if you don't get that guy? Because being last in the league, you're not gonna pull a, what was it? The Houston Texans or whatever out there. Like, you still have, there's still a lottery you have to get through. But this year is absolutely the year to do it, because if you're, let like end the season in the bottom 5 of the NHL, you're getting a franchise player out of this draft.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, if you're not getting a generational talent in Connor Bedard, there's still Matvei Michkov, there's still Adam Fantilli, Leo Carlson. All these guys look.
Zach Benson, bring him up.
Zach Benson, exactly. He's man. It's insane that we have such a good WHL team here, and we're all just like the Jets, the Jets, the Jets. It's always so fun going to the ice games. Listen,
Love it.
gone to more than a few of ours, and they're always a lot of fun. So if you're in the Winnipeg area, please go to the Winnipeg guys. Support the best CHL team in the league. They deserve it. They're fantastic.
The best hockey team in Winnipeg. Trademark.
Absolutely. Okay, I think that's enough on the Canucks. They're kind of a bit of a joke. Liz, have you heard of Nela Luposinova? I think I pronounced that right, but I apologize if I did not. Have you heard about this phenom from Slovakia?
How could I not have heard about? Every time there's someone blowing up about a highlight, Connor McDavid is on the outs, guys. Like, holy smokes! Like, every time I see like a random highlight play, it's our girl. She's out there.
She is insane. So this, if you guys have missed it, this is a 14-year-old Slovakian girl who has been doing.
Brady. When was she born?
She was born in 2008. She was born during the economic recession. But she is absolutely destroying the competition in Slovakia. If you just look at her stats, I've got it up on screen here if you're watching the video. So she's been playing in a men's league in Slovakia. I almost said Czech. Wrong place, and I think very wrong. So you should be able to see it on screen here. But Liz, I'm gonna bring something. I'm gonna ask you a question. So first of all, last year she played 3 games in the men's league. She got 3 points, point per game, pretty good. And then after, so keep in mind, this is when she's 13 years old. 13 years old. She then begins playing in a Slovakian women's league. She plays 6 games. Liz, I would like you to guess, just guess, how many points she got in 6 games.
Is this a U18 women's league, or is it?
I believe so. I'll bring it up here just to be sure, but it doesn't say anything regarding under a certain age. I'll just click on one of the other players and see how old they are as an example. No,
Okay.
this is a women's league. Like this is one of her teammates is 22 years old, so she's 13 years
Cool.
old. 13 years old playing this in this league.
The way you're laughing about this, I want to say it's going to be something bizarre, like 3 points a game, 18 points. 18 points.
In 6 games.
Yeah.
Lower, or sorry, higher. You are too low. It is more than that.
More than 3 points a game.
More than 3 points a game.
Let's go 4 points a game. Let's go 24 points.
Higher.
What?
Keep going.
6 games?
6 games. Higher.
Okay, 5 points a game, 30 points.
Higher.
No! What? What?
Lyss, as a 13-year-old in a women's adult league, she had 40 points in 6 games.
That's points a game. That's like scoring a goal or like teeing someone up every shift.
She had 25 of those were goals.
In 4 goals a game.
Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. And again, so she's 14 now. She's playing this year. Again, she played in that same women's league for six games again. Only 25 points. What a bum. But this year she played 10 games in a U16 men's league, a men's league. This is a league that Uri Slavkovsky played in. Like first overall pick this past year. Can you tell me her points in those games? In 6 games, in 10 games in a men's league. What did she? The same men's league that Uri Slavkovsky played in.
Can we assume that it's the best league for that age that she could be in?
I would say so. Yeah. It's a U16 men, or I guess boys league. I don't know. Men's boys league. Teen men. I don't know.
Yeah. 10 games?
10 games.
15 points.
She had 15 goals. And 16 assists for 31 points. 31 points game in 10 games. Obviously, easy, quick maths. 3.1 points per game. Lyss, can you tell me Uri Slavkovsky, when he played in this U16 league, how many points did he have? Can you just guess?
How many games?
23 games. Just get
30 points. 30 points.
Higher. He had 54 points in 23 games. If you do a little quick math, that's 2.35 points per game. And that was when I assume when he was like 16 also.
16.
And remember, she is 14 years old playing with teenage boys that are 2 years older than her. And she's a 3.1 points per game. This is insane. Like, this is the best female like prospect we've seen in years. Like, this genuinely, like, unironically, genuinely could be the first woman drafted into the NHL.
Well, like, if she's able to produce at that pace, like, yeah.
Like,
that's wild. Like, I when I've looked on Twitter and stuff like that, I haven't, like, none of the stuff that you talked about I've seen, and I haven't gone to look at it. I just see the highlights. I'm like, this girl's freaking dope. This is sick.
Yeah.
But, like, and it's the kind of thing where people are like, oh, you can't compare men and women's hockey players because this, that, whatever. But she's playing in their league. She's like, what the? Holy shit. That's crazy.
Yeah.
It'll be really interesting to see how the next couple of years go for her development. That's pretty awesome.
For sure. If she's also 5'7", which is awesome. You know, she's only 14 years old still, so she still has potentially time to grow more. But I think women tend to hit their growth spurts a bit earlier, so we'll see if she gets taller than that. But regardless, you can't teach size. I still think if she's putting up the points like on track that she is, I would not at all be surprised to see her be the first woman drafted into the NHL, or if she, if that's she doesn't want to go down that route, become the best women's hockey player of all time. Like we are looking at a generational talent. And I'm very excited to see what she can do in the future, because we haven't, I don't think we've seen numbers like this ever. Like, am I wrong?
It's giving Mario Lemieux in the WHL or the QMJHL, sorry. When he was like that. Those wild. Next time that comes up as a discourse, and like, because I am such a Mario Lemieux girly, like I think that guy freaking rocks. But people always talk about his junior numbers and how good they are and stuff like that. Nah, she's my new example. We're pulling up the elite prospects. Bring her out here.
It's tired Wayne Gretzky, wired Mario Lemieux, inspired Nela Luposinova. Did I say that right again? Luposinova. I hope that's
it's Lopusinova.
Ah! I spent like, before this, Lyss and I were talking, and I spent like 5 minutes being like Lopusinova. I messed it up again. Anyways, regardless, that's incredible. I can't wait to see.
Used to saying the name, because that's not the last we've heard of it.
Exactly. Thank you, Lyss. I completely agree. All right, let's hop back over the pond. We're gonna talk a little bit of All-Star Game. Where should we start here? Should we start with the players?
Question before we start.
What's up?
Question before we start.
What's up?
Brady, you are what, 24 years old? 25 years old. In your 25 years of living, how many NHL All-Star Games have you watched?
Oh, I'll be honest with you. I am a sucker for what the NHL puts out. So I watch the skills comp all the time. Skills comps are always fun. Yeah. But I want to say I've watched maybe like 3 total. I don't know. I feel like there's reasons I've watched it, like in the past, where, you know, I play a lot of NHL and Hockey Ultimate Team, and so sometimes there'll be like if this guy scores in the NHL All-Star Game, he gets a whatever to his card. So that is like, and I've watched a couple in the past, but I definitely think that it is because I've been incentivized to do it by, you know, having skin in the game, in quotes. You know, but not a lot. It's not that fun to watch on television. It's much more of a in-person thing. So it's good that you know, South Florida is getting it this year. Do we know where it's going next? Nashville? Is that what I've heard? I don't know. I could be wrong.
The draft's in Nashville.
Oh, draft's in Nashville. That's what I'm thinking of. I don't know. I would love for it to come to Winnipeg, but I don't think that it makes any sense for it to be here. You know, Seattle should probably get one at some point. Would be cool. Where else would be a fun location? I'm trying to think. Oh, I think they want to go back to Toronto soon. Like, I think that's what I've heard.
Toronto is 100%. And honestly, like somewhere like, I don't like Detroit, I think would be a really good place to do it too, because you could pull so many people from like Minnesota and like even Ontario and stuff like that. Like, I think there's a lot there. But yeah, like but I'm a huge fan of the South Florida for sure.
For sure. All right, what do we want to talk about first? We can talk about the rosters. I think going through each player doesn't really make a lot of sense. It's not that fun to just
like,
go.
Connor McDavid, woohoo!
Yeah, but I think the topic that was sweeping Twitter was the NHL fan vote. For multiple days, you know, for like a couple weeks, a week or two, I don't know how long they were good doing it. It was impossible to search up anything on Twitter regarding a player because, you know, if you wanted to see, you know, recent highlights or like, you know, what people are saying about the player, it was kind of impossible because it was just filled with hashtag NHL All-Star vote, and then Tim Stützle written 1,000 times. And then we got our actual not the nominees, but the players that ended up being voted into the game. And I have a question for you. We'll go over the players right away. But do you think the NHL rigged this? Like, do you think that there actually was a vote? Do you think that a vote was taking place and they actually tallied everything up and went, oh, looks like Austin Matthews is the most voted guy? Or
I think, here's what I think they did. I think they did tally it up and have their, I think they had their tracking set up, this, that, whatever. And then I think they threw it all away. Like, I think they still did their due diligence, this, that, whatever. And then they're like, but we don't like these results, so we're just going to pick whatever we want. Like, I think they probably picked from the top echelon of players. Like, because, for example, say Leafs Twitter just like collectively was like, nobody vote for Austin Matthews. We're only voting for William Nylander, which to a certain extent they honestly kind of did, but there were still Austin Matthews votes out there. They couldn't justify it if there weren't any sort of thing. So I think that it played it in that capacity, but there was a 0% chance. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, I would put my entire, I don't even know, to say that the top three players with the most votes from each division are the players that made the cut. Not a chance. There's a 0% chance. These are not the players that had the most votes on Twitter.
What were the most egregious ones? So I'll go through the, just so that anyone listening wants to know, the players that got voted in the Metro were Panarin, Sorokin, and Fox. In the Atlantic was Pasternak, Vasilevsky, and then Matthews, which then got replaced with Barkov because he's injured now. In the Central, Hellebuck, McKinnon, Rantanen, and then Pacific, Leon Draisaitl, Skinner, and Bo Horvat. Which of those players where do you see the biggest discrepancy versus what you thought would happen based on, seeing on Twitter and this and that and seeing everyone's votes and just vibes wise? Where was the biggest discrepancy between the two, would you say?
The Atlantic Division for me. The Atlantic Division had so much traction on Twitter. Obviously, I don't see everything that goes on, but like, I have Austin Matthews' name muted on Twitter. I have the word Leafs muted on Twitter. I have Leon Draisaitl muted on Twitter. Like, I have all, like, I don't want to see shit about them. So like, my timeline probably was a little bit skewed and whatnot, but like, I also don't give a shit about Cole Caulfield or Tim Stützle, and my entire timeline was just filled with Stützle and Caulfield votes. And I know that Habs fans and Sens fans and Leafs fans, if we want to talk about that too, kind of collectively, because you have to do this, right? And Jets fans did it too. You pick a player for your team and everyone just goes ham on the one player because you know that you're not going to get to send them all. Jets fans, it was Connor Hellebuck. That worked. Leafs fans, it was definitely William Nylander. And then Austin Matthews went in. Again, I'm not mad about that one because it's just kind of, it is what it is. But Stützle and Caulfield not being on there, I'm pretty sure those were the guys that had the two most votes on Twitter, like, hands down. And the fact that Andrei Vasilevsky is going to the All-Star game, I didn't see a single Andrei Vasilevsky tweet, and I probably have, like, I have my notifications on for the Tampa Bay Avalanche. Like, I follow the Avs media, or Tampa Bay app. I'm just speaking shit. I have notifications on for the Tampa Bay Lightning, and I follow a lot of Lightning media and all that kind of stuff. Like, I actually genuinely like the Bolts a lot. I didn't see shit about Vasilevsky. They just wanted a goalie, and they wanted a Vezina goalie, and they wanted an award winner, and they just wanted to send who they wanted to send. The Atlantic Division, to me, is the one that's the most skewed.
Yeah, and the only way that things could be different is because obviously the vote wasn't only on Twitter. There was the back end vote that was just directly on the NHL site, right?
Yes.
So the only way I could see guys like Matthews, Vasilevsky, those guys being voted in is because player, or let's just say you or I were voting. We know a lot, like, or someone who's like a Pacific Division fan team, if they're not really paying attention to the Atlantic. I almost said the Athletic. The Atlantic. And so they're just like, oh yeah, Austin Matthews star, Vasilevsky star. But I don't think that that's enough. And I feel like the majority of the votes were through Twitter. Like, 'cause it's just so much easier. The accessibility is so much easier rather than, going onto NHL.com, signing into your NHL.com account, doing your 10 votes a day. It's like, it's way easier to just spew out Twitter tweets, and then, and I feel like there's a reason why the NHL makes it harder, because when you tweet about it, that's free marketing for them. So I don't know.
Yep.
I look at this and, how is I almost said Jeff Skinner. How is Stuart Skinner being voted into the All-Star game? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. That makes, like, to me,
There
like,
are no goalies in the Pacific Division, and they needed to pick someone, not because anyone voted for him.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, I agree. Do you have anything else you want to say in regards to the players going? I have a question. Do you think Alex Ovechkin goes, or does he take his 1-game suspension as always?
Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, part of me feels like he's gonna go this year. Like, just because everything, like, he hit his 800 this year, he passed Howe this year, and he's, I feel like he might lean into it a bit. I don't know. We'll see.
It's also
Sidney Crosby, is he gonna go? I don't know.
It's also in South Florida,
It's also
so
a
you know,
good point.
as
It's a
much
good
as
point.
much as I would prefer to go to like Cuba or wherever for a vacation if I'm an NHL player, getting a free trip to Florida is not the worst thing ever, and then you don't have to be suspended a game and probably get docked pay or something like that. I can't remember exactly how suspension works with pay and everything,
Yeah.
but also that's a really dumb rule, but I understand why they have to do it because otherwise players are just
Yeah.
like, I would rather just relax for a little
Because the
bit.
All-Star game stinks and the even the NHL players know, but that's besides the point. But as far as like further comments on players, like the best like 1 year, like I'm the same as you. I don't watch the All-Star game. I don't give a crap about it. But there was 1 year I tuned into it solely because of the John Scott thing. The way that Twitter just rallied around John Scott,
Hell
decided
yeah.
we are going to get this guy, entirely voted in when he had no business being there. It was the most fun. That's the only reason I watched the All-Star game that year. So why all these people who like, they collaborated and they're like, we're gonna get this player and all this kind of stuff, and they just pick whoever they want to pick. What is the point? Why are we doing this? Like this shit sucks. It's so lame.
Yeah, it does kind of stink that, and that's why also I feel like they would never, like the NHL would never actually let a free market like vote determine who actually goes because of that
It would be
situation.
all Leafs players too, so it's like, who cares?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, they have to put in there like, oh, you have to vote from every team. Also, in general, the one player goes from every team. Really dumb. Like I
So
understand,
bad.
I understand why, but it's like it's giving people are
Participation trophy.
it's giving participation trophy, and it's also giving like, oh, this one player should be in the Hockey Hall of Fame because he was really important to my franchise. And you're like, no, that Hockey Hall of Fame should be the Hockey Hall of Fame, not the Hockey Hall of Good Players. Um,
No, absolutely. No, like you look at this list and you look at like, yeah, the East, and why the hell is Brock Nelson at the NHL All-Star game? Like give me a break. Give me a break. Kevin Hayes
why
in this economy?
why is Nazem Kadri going? Like, I don't get me wrong, I like Nazem Kadri, but like there are so many more deserving players to be going at the moment. You know what I mean? Like it's
And to me, All-Star game is also usually more like you should, to me, only look at the lens of this season. Like Josh Morrissey going to the All Star game makes all the sense in the world. Eric Carlson, frick yeah, send him over there. Like to me, All Star game, like Tage Thompson, get that man up in there. Like Jeff Skinner that year that he was on a heater, awesome. But like Nazem Kadri hasn't done shit this year. Like why is he going? Last year, sure, send him off. Sounds good to me. Like Kevin Fiala is going this year. The fuck? Like what are we
also
doing here?
also with this like current format that they have. Clayton Keller will forever and ever, amen, be in the All-Star game. He's at the end of his career, he's gonna be like, yeah, no big deal. I had like 15 All-Star appearances. Is it because I was the only decent player on my team? Yeah, that's why. But
That's
whatever.
so true. And honestly, if I'm Clayton Keller though, I'm literally embarrassed when I'm like, I literally have to go to this shit every single year because I am the consolation for the Arizona Coyotes, Gary Bettman's baby, and like I like Clayton Keller's a great hockey player, but like he doesn't need to be going to the All-Star game every goddamn year. Like what the heck?
Yeah, it's interesting. But this year I might actually give it a watch. And the one main reason is the All-Star jerseys are mwah,
Heat,
immaculate.
bro. They're heat.
I am so sad that Adidas is abandoning the NHL, but honestly, probably good for their own reasons. Um, because everything that they've done with the NHL jerseys, I've absolutely loved. Like as you know, am a jersey collector guy. The Adidas jerseys are so pristine. They're so clean. There's something about the way that there's almost like a boxiness to them, which is like really nice. Like not in a bad way. Some people would say boxy is bad, but I think for a jersey, it's nice because it's props your shoulders up nicely. Fits. It fits more like how like a sweater almost kind of would fit rather than just this big draping thing. I've absolutely loved what they've done with the jerseys and the whole, reverse retro program. I've absolutely loved. Obviously, we did a whole bit on that. Um, and so it's really sad to see that this is probably going to be their, some of their last hurrahs in regards to jerseys. But looking at the All-Star game jerseys, my oh my, these things are immaculate. I'm showing them on screen now, just to let you know this. Oh my god, these are beautiful. But I have one criticism. Obviously, they did their kind of reverse retro bit for, like the 90, what was it, the 94 All-Star jersey. I don't know.
You're
Whenever
asking the wrong person. You're asking the wrong person.
that's okay. I love these, but my issue with them is there are 4 teams. Like there's the Pacific, there's the Atlantic, there's the Metro, and the Central. Jeez, I keep blanking. I'm not necessarily asking for them to change how it says like Western and Eastern on them, but like, could they have not made like 2 versions of the jersey? Like, I want to see more jerseys. These jerseys look beautiful. I would just love to see them like just change up the colors a little bit, and then have like a Pacific jersey, one for each division. If we look back to, what was it, the year they went to like Nashville, I want to say they had 4 different color, or even LA. I remember they had 4 different colored jerseys, and I would love 4 versions of this jersey because they're phenomenal. They're so nice, but I hate that there's only like a black version and a white version.
I don't
Um,
get it. How are they gonna differentiate between
it's
them?
just the one team will. I guess we'll see when it comes to it. Who knows? Maybe there is like a home and away like a bright and a dark version of them, or maybe they both just use the same jersey. Like this is like, one is just the black jersey and one of them is the white jersey, and then maybe they swap the
Or
crests. I don't know, or what.
maybe they're gonna surprise us and bring back the draft, and then only
No,
have 2 teams. And only have 2 teams.
no, they're not. No, they're doing their stupid
I
tournament
know.
style. I would love that though. That would be really
Ugh.
cool. But
I love the draft. The draft, oh, that was
Phil Kessel getting
get
picked last is my like chef's kiss. I miss that bit. I miss
no,
the one year that Ovi
Alex
was like
Ovechkin going second last because he wanted to win a car and he got like blacked and he was like he just wanted the car so bad and then he got picked second last and it was so funny.
and then like the trades. Like that's a really fun way to do like the Friday night there, because one,
So good.
then you don't have like every team, like it's fun to have a little bit of surprise. It's fun to see players playing with guys that they don't normally. I mean, obviously the All-Star game is already guys you don't play with normally, but it's always going to be, if you're getting in the Pacific, you're always going to be playing with Clayton Keller. um I
The 2 all-stars of the Pacific Division, Clayton Keller and Connor McDavid.
Yeah, exactly, forever and ever, amen. um but yeah, I just wish we would see more jerseys. I think I'm gonna have to get a Morrissey all-star jersey, but I also am not a fan of the white jerseys in general. I wish that they had the black version, but at least it's teal on the back. But
I don't support white jersey haters.
it's whatever, man. I don't hate white jerseys. I just prefer the ones with more color on them.
The Winnipeg Jets heritage white jerseys are the nicest jerseys I've ever seen in my life.
They're very nice. I'm gonna get my Perfetti reverse retro in here very soon. I can't wait. Anyways, we could probably move on now from the All-Star game. Unless you have anything to say, add it in right
No,
now. And
it's the
then
All-Star game. I don't give a shit.
yeah, but it will be nice to have some time off. That's for sure. Maybe we'll do a podcast in the middle of there if we're feeling lonely and bored. But I think we'll probably both enjoy the time off from doing Jets games.
Yes,
All
definitely.
all right. I think it's time. I think it's time to hop into some trade deadline talk. Are you
Only, an hour into the show. It's all good.
Hey, we're only 48 minutes into the show. Come on. We got plenty of.
Look
We
at
got.
us.
Hopefully this will probably be. I'm guessing like an hour and 15, maybe. I think we could cover this all in like 30ish minutes. Hopefully,
Yeah.
we don't have to stick on a ton of the players, but. Anyways, trade deadline, big board. We're just gonna go through. The Athletic put one up. I'm gonna bring it up on screen now. They put up a big board as to who is looking to move this year. Lyss, do you want to start us off with who is the first player on the big board to move?
Well, I'm glad that I'm starting this off because Brady and I were like, we'll pull up a list and we'll talk about some players where we think they're gonna go, this, that, whatever. Very first player on this list and probably many of the other lists that you'll see is Bo Horvat of the Vancouver Canucks. So let's talk a little bit about Bo Horvat. I'm gonna start because I'm sure you're not gonna enjoy my response. I think Bo Horvat goes nowhere. I think the
Whoa,
Vancouver Canucks try and find a way to re-sign him, and they actually do. I don't think Bo Horvat's getting traded.
that's a take.
I don't think I've seen anyone else with that take, but that's why I'm a trailblazer. I'm the first.
Well, I certainly don't believe that's true. But I also think that the Canucks are stupid enough to try and do it. But I just don't think that I just don't see them making getting a contract done. Like that's just my main, whatever with it. Um, I think Bo Horvat, especially with how the Boudreaux stuff went down, is like, I need to get out of this organization as quick as possible, and I do not blame him. Especially when they bring back the skate jersey and absolutely massacre it, but that's another discussion. It's growing on me, but it still looks bad in my opinion. Anyways, Bo Horvat for me, where I see him going, I think, and this is kind of where he's kind of rumored to, is Boston. He kind of fits, in my opinion, what they need. But I also wouldn't be surprised to see him go to a team like Colorado. We've all heard him, we've kind of heard discussions, Colorado's looking to add, but it's going to be really interesting to see what they do, considering right now, like, they're already kind of up against it with the cap, I believe. And all the things that would allow them to make trades would be if, guys like Gabe Landeskog were out till, end of the season. He comes back on game one. He does the Kucherov kind of style recovery, but it seems like he's going to be earlier and coming back earlier than that. So their trade deadline cap space isn't going to be as much as, people may have thought. So in my opinion, Bo Horvat ends up going to Boston or even the Winnipeg Jets. I could see him having a fit there. I think that the Jets already have a relationship with the Canucks with the whole Nate Schmidt deal, and I think that that's just a natural place to look for improvement. And from what I know, Heisinger and all the guys in the Jets organization are very pro lots of centermen. So I know we have the two big guys already, but I could definitely see him being a guy they target. But I think the price is going to be astronomical on him. So might price himself out.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, and then number 2 on the big board, Timo Meier. Lyss, where do you think he's going? What do you see happening here? Very interesting with his $10 million qualifying offer next year, set to become an RFA. 26 years old, winger. Where's he going?
So no, we're not talking about Bo Horvat anymore. Timo Meier is kind of an interesting one to me because I think that it's gonna be like he's a different kind of rental, right? Which is why I think that he's going to go to a different kind of team than someone like the Boston Bruins. I don't see that being a fit, to be completely honest with you. Um, I am inclined to believe that the Winnipeg Jets are gonna put their hat in the ring on that one, just because they currently have a self rental with Pierre-Luc Dubois that's not gonna pan out for them, and they need someone else of a similar age, this, that, whatever, like all kinds of things to replace him when he inevitably leaves. And I think Timo Meier's the guy. So I have my suspicions that the Winnipeg is going to be interested in that capacity. But a couple off the board picks on that one. New Jersey, just because Nico Hischier gets some Swiss connection up there, I think that'd be pretty cool. Might be a neat fit there. Vegas, I could see them making a splash because Vegas loves to go for the biggest names that are out there and bring them in. I could see that being kind of cool. Maybe Carolina, I'm not sure. Timo Meier is a really interesting one to me. To me, it's more of a team that is not on the back half of their push. He's not going to a Tampa Bay or something like that. Who's like, if this was 3 years ago, he'd be going to Tampa 100%. I think it's a team that's still looking to be good and contend a couple years into the future, which is why it makes me think it's more of a Winnipeg, Vegas, New Jersey type of fit.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you. I don't see him on Vegas, but I think what we've heard in regards to what's it called? His connection with the Devils, I think, is very real, and I think the Devils feel like they're a very good team for good reason. So that's a spot I definitely see him going with the whole Swiss connection there. I see the Hurricanes being in on him because he's a good player, and the Hurricanes are a smart team. So I would not be surprised to see him go there, especially with their the uncertainty around Max Pacioretty, considering he's injured again. Condolences to him. Hopefully he can get things back on track. He's a great player, and I would love to see him continue to play. But then, yeah, I also once again see the connection with the Jets. The Jets haven't been really rumored to be in on many players yet. Maybe Chevy's keeping his cards to his chest. They're still trying to figure out exactly what the deal is, but I do see the Jets going out and making a big deal this year. And as you said, it makes a lot of sense with the uncertainty around the rest of the contracts. I would love to see him here. Even if they can't get an extension on him, I would be happy just to see him here this year and next in order to really make the most of the window that the Jets currently have. But alas, we'll see how that turns out. Boy, oh boy, I want to see Timo Meier and Nick Ehlers playing together. Bring back the Halifax Mooseheads connection.
Halifax Mooseheads, woo!
Yeah, like I need another bromance on our team. I miss the old bromance we used to have here. But yeah, those are the two guys I teams I see being really big on him. Maybe the Kraken. I doubt it. They're an interesting team, but it is what it is. All right. Next up, Jacob Chychrun. I think this one we're gonna keep pretty short.
I'm not talking about Jacob Chychrun anymore. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done with him.
We were talking before the show, and we're just saying, like, I don't want this to be a long segment. We've heard a lot of rumors in regards to Ottawa. We've heard Edmonton. We've heard any place that needs a D-man. I don't know. My thing. I don't think he gets traded this deadline. I think it's an off season.
He's going to the Arizona Coyotes. I don't give a shit.
Exactly. Yeah, and maybe the Coyotes decide they want to start trying to turn it around soon. So they've got a ton of picks coming up. So maybe he's part of their rebuild, but also maybe he's part of bringing in the last few pieces of their rebuild. But at the same time, the Coyotes are going to be dog shit forever and ever, amen, because that's just their business model. Anyways,
Clayton Keller's an all-star though.
Yeah, he is. Clayton Keller is an all-star. You are correct. All right, Lyss, your beloved Chicago Blackhawks. I'm sorry for saying that. If you didn't know, Lyss used to be a Chicago Blackhawks fan, which is very funny.
Hey.
Anyways, we're not going to talk about that. Patrick Kane, 34 years old, UFA at the end of the year, has a no trade clause. Where's he going? Is he getting traded? What do you think?
To me, the most likely thing is I think he doesn't get traded. I think he rides out. I don't know, because I think the price is also going to be astronomical for him, and I don't know if anyone's willing or able to take that on. I think he signs in Buffalo in the offseason. But for now,
Whoa.
I don't know. Yeah,
that's an interesting one.
I don't think it's interesting. I feel like I've seen a lot of people with that take.
It makes sense. But I'm just sorry. The interesting part was me going Tage Thompson, Skinner, Thompson, and Kane, and I'm like, ooh, that's gonna score some goals.
That would score a lot of goals. Yeah, I place him most likely, in my opinion, maybe someone like the New York Rangers, and off the board pick Toronto Maple Leafs. They don't have the ability to send or to bring him in. I don't think. But we know Kyle Dubas will pull strings if he wants to do something. That would be dope. That would be sick. I hate the Leafs, but come on. So I'm leaning. I'm thinking maybe the Rangers, but I don't know. I really don't know.
For me, yeah, the Rangers is like the very obvious one to me, in my opinion. Again, same thing though. I can see him going to the Devils. Although I think that the Devils are a little smarter than that, because I think Patrick Kane has not the greatest defensive numbers, but then again, he plays on the Blackhawks, so I don't blame him. For me, the Rangers is the most obvious. I don't think that Buffalo's going to spend what they need in order to, get a rental. I don't see the Sabres being a rental team, just because they're kind of on the outside looking in. They're just on the bubble. So, and even if they do make it in, great. You're going to play Boston first round. Enjoy, have fun. So my off the board pick for this one, obviously the Rangers. I like your Leafs one. I could see that one happening. We're no stranger to the three-way trade in order to get the cap space or the cap hit down. This is a really interesting one for me. I could see the Penguins for Patrick Kane. This is a really weird one, because we all know the motto behind the Penguins is, if you have Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin, you should go for it. which is a totally fair and understandable thing to do. So I think that that would be a really interesting one. They're kind of on the outside looking in right now, but again, they're one of those teams that just needs to get into the playoffs, and then you have Sidney Crosby, who is going to be Sid the Kid forever, even though he's like, what, 35, 34? I don't even know. He's old.
He's a year older than Patrick Kane, so
Perfect. So yeah, so I think that would be a really interesting and fun one to see. But it would make me really sad because the Penguins have been good for too long, in my opinion. Down with the Penguins. Boo is what I say. All right, moving on. We have one that seemed that I feel like the discussion around this guy has gone really far down, or has like kind of dropped a lot since the start of the season, even though we all knew that this would be where he is on the board. When he made his signing in Anaheim, it was pretty obvious that this was just one so that the Ducks could get some assets from him and he can get moved to a contender. John Klingberg. What's your thoughts on him?
I don't know. I don't think I have a lot of thoughts on John Klingberg. He's a weird player. Like some of the maps that you've seen from different like Money Puck and things like that, he's just having a bit of an odd season. Like he's just kind of a chaotic player right now, which is not something that we've seen from John Klingberg in a lot of his career leading up to this. I don't know. Is this like a random Edmonton Oilers move? Is this like maybe a strange off the board Florida Panthers move? I don't know. I don't honestly don't have a lot of thoughts on John Klingberg.
Yeah, for me, like I'm just looking through the teams and I'm just trying to come up with any sort of thoughts on this. I feel like every team kind of needs a defenseman. Every team wants to add a defenseman, but the John Klingberg archetype is not the type of defenseman teams are trying to add at the deadline. Like if you're a good team at this point in the season, you have a power play guy, right? Like you have a guy who can do what John Klingberg brings, or else you wouldn't be a good team.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
when I look here, like teams that I think I find some interest in, maybe a team like the Capitals. Like I don't know, like I can see the Capitals going for someone who can maybe provide some offense from the back end. Obviously, John Carlson's there, but I think that they don't have much else in behind him. Correct me if I'm wrong. Again, the Oilers make sense just because they need a D-man. They've needed a D-man forever. I could see him even maybe going to like, if the prices aren't really, if people aren't really willing to pay high price for Klingberg and the Ducks are just like, we just need to get something for him anyways. I could see a team like maybe the Senators even trying for him and then just being like, okay, even if we're not going to go and make the playoffs and do well, I could see them being like, this is a guy we want to have around long term. And maybe we just get the jump on being able to sign him. That's an interesting thought, I think. But yeah, again, there's not a lot of like trade partners that make a lot of sense for an offensive power play D-man in this, but I digress. And then this is a really fun, interesting one. A team that hasn't really decided fully yet if they're going to blow it up or not, but I think with time, I think we'll see it kind of develop and happen. The St. Louis Blues and their captain, Ryan O'Reilly. Lyss, where's Ryan O'Reilly going? Is he staying? Is he going?
This is one that I think gets. I think there's a trade to be had here. There are a couple guys from the Blues that are on this trade list, and I think that if they're smart, I think they should blow it up personally because a lot of the pieces they have are fantastic and could net some crazy assets. Ryan O'Reilly is everyone's dream hockey player for a playoff run. Like everyone should want this guy, so it's just gonna be a matter of that asking price. I really don't know. I don't know why I'm so heavy on the Vegas ones today, but just with the Pietrangelo connection, like there's something to me that makes me feel like that could be a really interesting fit. I don't know. I could also see maybe a little bit of a Carolina and also random off the board pick Dallas. I feel like that could be a really fun fit. I don't know where Ryan O'Reilly's going, but I do believe that this one is going to lead to a trade. I do.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that the Blues are pretty smart. Like you look back to the Stastny trade, like that year they weren't out of the playoffs yet. And they were just like, this isn't our year. We got to get something for this guy. And then, of course, they make the trade with the Jets. And it also shows they're not afraid to trade within their division. I think the Stars is one I didn't really think of because my brain is trained from all these years to go, oh, they're not going to trade them in division. But when you think about it, actually, like, it almost makes sense this year to trade in division. You want to be bad. If you're trading away guys, you want to be bad. And so it like makes sense if you're giving away a rental to be like, all right, here's our guy. Beat the crap out of us now with it, with him. So yeah, the Stars are a really interesting one. I could see him going to this. This is a guy who I like. I know what we were saying before, but to its T, I think that Ryan O'Reilly is almost a perfect Bruin. Like imagine
Yeah, he
the
is. He
Bruins
is.
with Ryan O'Reilly. Like
I don't
eh,
even want to imagine the Bruins right now.
well, yeah, I know, but
Like,
like they don't have issues scoring goals. They don't have issues defending. But like imagine you go to play against the Boston Bruins in the playoffs and they roll out Patrice Bergeron, Ryan O'Reilly, and David Krejci for the entire game. They just roll 3 lines and then, play a 4th line every now and then. They can put like specialty guys there because they don't need anyone else. Like, oh, that would hurt. That would be painful. Jesus Christ, I'm so happy the Jets are not in the Atlantic because, by God, they are just a giant. Other than that, again, a guy who I think the Jets should be in on, and I think kind of fits what the Jets would like as far. The Jets seem to be a very personality-driven team too. Like
yeah.
they like their like good guys, their leadership guys. Like they seem to really favor the intangibles. And as I was saying earlier, like I could see them being like we want a lot of centers, but I also don't think I could see them spending what is necessary for Ryan O'Reilly. So. And I don't think that he is the greatest fit. I think the Jets need more of a winger, but at the same time, you get a center and you can move Scheifele to the wing. It is what it is. Other than that, I can see him even going, I can see like the Kings liking him. I can see the Kraken liking him. There's a lot of teams in the Pacific where I could see, Ryan O'Reilly being moved to. I'm saying all this without looking at anything cap-wise, so I have no idea how all of this will work. I'm just looking for fits, hey,
Yeah,
maybe
for sure.
maybe the Sabres trade for him.
Shut up.
I'm kidding.
That's so funny. Tage Thompson and Ryan O'Reilly on the same team. That's something that we wouldn't have seen coming when that trade was made. But
Never. All right, moving on. Alyssa, who's the next guy on our
no,
nope.
okay. So the next guy on the list is Jonathan Toews. Like Brady said, I did grow up a Blackhawks fan, and I'll be honest with you, I can dox myself now because this has all changed. But like all of my passwords on my computers when I was like 11 used to be like iterations of Jonathan Toews' name. Like, guys, if this was 3 years ago, and you would have told me that on Jonathan Toews' contract expiring year, the Winnipeg Jets were in contention spot, and you could bring him in and like I would have been so thrilled and I would have wanted it so bad. But now he sucks at hockey and he was part of the 2010 Chicago Blackhawks and all that fucking bullshit. So I want nothing to do with him. I don't even want to talk about him, to be completely honest with you. I don't want him on my hockey team. And I have a feeling that if he's going anywhere, could be the team. But I don't know if the Jets actually want him that bad. The organization, I don't know. I don't know where he's going to go. I think Patrick Kane is more likely to get traded than he is. I don't know. I don't have a lot of thoughts on Jonathan Toews, if I'm being completely honest with you.
Okay, I will give you my my hockey take on him. Obviously, there's the everything you mentioned with everything else that happened. Not great. And I wonder if Chevy is like, I don't want to bring in any connection with that. I want that connection to die. I don't want anyone to bring up that connection.
So we keep, forgetting that Chevy was part of that too, but
Yep, that's what I mean. Anyways, I could see the Jets being in on him. Unfortunately, it just makes a lot of sense with, the Jets would need a little bit more depth. He could potentially play in the top 6, blah, blah, blah. But in my opinion, with any player, as much as it's fun to look at the intangibles and this and that, and, what he's done in the past, he hasn't been good for a while now. Again, neither of the Blackhawks, so change of scenery could potentially be the thing that is needed to kind of rejuvenate his career. But he's old. Like, what is he? He's like 30. I don't know. How old is Jonathan Toews?
He's the same age as Patrick Kane. He's 34.
He's
They're
34.
both 1980. They're both 1988s.
Nice.
However old that
We
makes
need
them.
more players that are Blake Wheeler's age on our team. That's what I always say. But yeah, so I think the Jets would be better off going for a youthful guy, a better guy who could potentially stay around longer. But I do think that unfortunately he does bring the stupid leadership intangibles that everyone likes to talk about. When the reality is they haven't won in since 2016. So in like what
2015.
2015. Oh, 2015. You're right.
2015.
Sorry, my bad. So what, 7-8 years they haven't won. So I don't know. I don't know where I see on this. But my main point is the Jets are going to have like $9-ish million at the cap, or sorry, at the deadline, to spend to the cap, and even him at 5.5, or sorry, 5.25, which is 50% retained, which would obviously cost you more. That's a lot of that $9 million that is being taken up, and the Jets would probably need to add some sort of D-man. And if he's the guy who's the add-on forward, I think then you definitely need to add a second guy, like an Arturi Lehkonen style player. There's always, everyone loves to tout about how, cup contenders need their Blake Colemans, their Barclay Goodrows, their whoever the fuck.
It's always the two of them, eh? It's always Blake Coleman and Barclay Goodrow. Anyways, go on.
But yeah, so I wonder if that really makes a ton of sense, because I think that in adding him, you need to add a lot more elsewhere. Whereas I think with a guy like Timo Meier, you could actually just add him and then focus on your defense and then your whatever. Obviously, I'm saying this all from a Jets point. If he doesn't go to the Jets, I have no idea where else he would go. I could see him going to, again, like you said, the Stars. I could see him going to the, I wonder what the Wild do. Every time I look at the standings here, I look at them and I go, what's the deal with them? And I think they need a center, actually. Going back to the Ryan O'Reilly thing, I could see them needing a centerman really badly. Kirill Kaprizov and Zuccarello play with like Sam Steele right now. Like they absolutely need a centerman. So, they should definitely be in on any centerman on the market. But yeah, Jonathan Toews has to agree to wherever he goes, but at the same time, I take any opportunity with a playoff team. If I'm in his shoes.
If I'm him, though, I honestly don't think Jonathan Toews wants to come to Winnipeg. I heard some rumors about that and stuff like that, and like I don't know why any Winnipeg superstar, and that's a bit of a crazy term for him now at this stage of his career. He was like full stop a superstar earlier in his career. Like there's no denying that. Why would you want to come to the city of Winnipeg? Like your life is never going to be normal in Winnipeg. It's too small. I don't think he wants to come here. I'm trying to remember how credible the source was that I saw talking about it, but he was talking about like for his family's sake, he didn't want to come here, and I feel like that's valid. Like the
Yeah.
city of Winnipeg is so small. Like Jonathan and his family already, I'm sure they experience so much like it's like everyone knows who they are because everyone knows who Jonathan Toews is, and it's just I don't know.
It's tough because I also see it from the other side of things where I'm like, I could see him having that like, oh, it would be kind of nice to spend a couple extra months at home, and then in the off season, like I can never see him signing here, but I could see him maybe coming here for a cup run and then maybe just having the fun little glory. You get to add a little something, a photo of him in a Jets jersey to the Jonathan Toews Community Center, where I play my beer league all the time. So
I used to take a picture with the little Jonathan Toews shrine after every single Rant game. Like a little sweaty 9-year-old Alyssa, like was like there, like smiling with her Rant bag that was double the size of her. Yeah. Last October, when all that stuff came out, was really hard on me. If I'm being completely honest with you, I'm still not over it. It's very upsetting, and I think like my chemistry has been like altered because of like, oh my god.
Yeah. Well,
Anyways.
let's move on because we're at an hour 12 or an hour 13 actually, and we've gone through 7 players on this list. Maybe we'll cut it off at 15, and then we'll do some highlights after. Let's cut it off at 15, and we'll do highlights after that.
This is the perfect time because the next player on the list is Vladimir Tarasenko, and I have no thoughts on this player.
Okay, I have one thought, and I'm also gonna debunk my thought also too. He's a scorer. Any team that needs scoring would be good to add him. So a team that I would look at who would want to add scoring is the Islanders if they're really still trying to get in place for whatever. But the issue with the Islanders is recently I was listening to the the 32 Thoughts podcast, and they were saying how Friedman got to chat with Lou Lamoriello, and he said that Lou Lamoriello is of the mind that with rentals you only add a rental when you think that you are able to win the cup. And so in the past, when he added whoever it was, like Pajot, other
Mhm.
guys, even going back to with the Devils, like Marek Zidlitsky and this stuff like that. Those types of deals that Lamoriello made was only in cases where he's like, this team could win the cup. Right now, they're in sixth in the Metro, and the East is insane. So I don't see him having that thought of, oh, I think my team could win. But other than that, like I look, a team like the Rangers doesn't have a ton of goals. I'm just looking at goals for in the league. Like they definitely could use some scoring, but again, if they're probably in the Patrick Kane kind of sweepstakes, so I would imagine that to be more where their their allegiance is to. I could see Colorado trying to add him. Who else? Maybe Carolina. I don't know. He seems like a guy that is going to go to a middling team, so I could see more like a Calgary or like a, I don't know. He just doesn't get he
That's
doesn't give
fair.
he doesn't give off like Boston, adding to a juggernaut team. He gives off more of a team where they need a little bit more, rather than filling out the outsides of the roster. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Alrighty, and Brock Besser, 25. He's going to be a UFA in 2025, so he's got this year and next still on his contract. Do you think he moves this offseason, or sorry, this trade deadline, or do you think he's an offseason guy? Do you think he moves at all? What's your vibe?
I don't think that come 2025 Brock Besser is a Vancouver Canuck. I think he needs to get out of there, and I think that like there's probably a mutual agreement that a change of scenery is necessary there. I don't know if it's this year. I That being said, if they're, super set on re-signing Bo Horvat or trying to get something worked out there or something, I don't know. They're probably going to try and clear out some other stuff, and I think he's a piece that's movable. Um, I don't think he gets moved before the deadline, unless the price is right for the Vancouver Canucks because they know that their hands aren't as tied with him. If he does though, I don't know if this is just me wanting this for him or me actually believing this, but I want to see him go to one of those teams that's like, a good team. Like I could see him being a nice fit with someone like the Carolina Hurricanes. Like just a nice, not so media centric market
Yeah,
and not so like I so Carolina is kind of my pick for him, but I don't know how hockey centric that choice is, or if it's really just like knowing everything that's been going on in Vancouver and everything that's been going on with Besser. I don't really know.
yeah. For me, like I could see him. He seems like a guy who you could probably get for cheaper than you'd expect. I would say,
Yeah,
because I think that Vancouver also is like this has just not gone well. So I could see him going to a team that's like I don't see him being a cup run team. I could see him going to a team who's kind of on the ups, because he does have some term left. Like I could see him going to like a Buffalo or like somewhere that is kind of on the upswing, is going to get better.
Kraken,
The Kraken, I could see him going to. That would be interesting. Except I don't see
the
Vancouver.
Kings, maybe.
I could see maybe the Kings. I don't see the Kraken actually, just because he does have term. And do you want Brock Besser coming into your barn from your biggest rival and being like, haha, I'm gonna score on you every night? Um,
Yeah,
so so maybe not them, but again, like I see him going to more of a middling team, to try and round out their roster and be able to kind of push them forward in the future. So I think for me, the place that stands out the most to me is a team like Buffalo. Um, Other than that, I don't really think there's much to say about him, honestly. Like it's kind of stinks that his career's gone how it has so far. I wish the best for
for
him,
sure.
as a fan of his, but yeah. Let's move on. Vladislav Gavrikov from the Columbus Blue Jackets, who stink this year. He's going to be a UFA at the end of the year. 27 years old, left D. Lyss, who needs a big left D man?
I was gonna say this is the player on this entire list that I have the most confidence that I know where they're gonna go.
Oh yeah,
Gavrikov is an Edmonton Oiler. There is no doubt in my mind that that man is not an Edmonton Oiler. A left-handed defenseman who, like, I feel like it's just the right fit. That seems like the kind of move that Ken Holland would bring in. I don't think it's the right call for the Oilers. However, I think it's the call that will be made because I fully, fully, fully believe that this man is going to be an Edmonton Oiler because that the Oilers know that their defense is bad, and to me, he's one of the higher up on the list like most of the lists that I've
Hmm.
seen names for defenders. I think Edmonton makes a move for him. I think he's an Edmonton Oiler.
I think that that fits very well. And even looking at, just the articles that have come out about him, it seems like he's been linked to the Oilers more and more. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Jets go after him because I think that he kind of fits what the Jets want. I don't think that
God.
that's. I don't think that that's. You made a bad face, and I don't think that that's a good idea. I don't think he is exactly what the Jets need. I think he fits an archetype that the Jets or like
Yeah,
that
for
makes
sure.
sense. But at the same time, I just don't think that he's the right fit for the Jets. And I think that again, like you said, the Oilers seem to be the perfect spot for him. He makes 2.8 mil on the cap, so it might be interesting to see how they fit him in. Obviously, I would imagine a guy like a Jesse Puljujarvi being pushed out, which is very funny to see. Imagine he gets traded 1-for-1 for Puljujarvi, and then you have Dubois goes to the team that passed up on him for Patrick Laine, and then you see Puljujarvi go to the team that passed up on him for Dubois. Goes to the Columbus Blue Jackets. That would be really funny, but
2016 draft is just a freaking fever dream. Like
it's
honestly, I
it's
don't
just
even.
it's a carousel, honestly. It's
It
well,
is. It
eventually
is.
Matthews will go somewhere. Actually, I don't.
Arizona, baby.
I strongly doubt that. There's no way Austin Matthews would
Yeah.
ever play in Mullet Arena,
No.
unless he's playing for another team. Anyways, enough about Gavrikov. Matt Dumba is next on this list. He's been kind of bandied about just because of the whole, the scratching recently. Apparently, if did you know that you can scratch your veteran defenseman if you don't think that they're playing well? Did you know that, Liz? Did you know that?
What?
If you can read between the lines here, we're definitely not subtweeting any Winnipeg Jets defenseman who makes like almost $6 million or 5.5 or whatever, and is a right-handed D-man, and his name rhymes with Peel Neonk. But, anyways, we're not going to talk about that guy. Matt Dumba, do you see him getting moved? He's a UFA at the end of the season here. He's a right-handed D, 28 years old, but also he's on the Wild, who are in playoff contention here. So I think this is one of the more interesting guys. What do you think, Liz?
So I'm like, we were talking about the Blues a bit earlier, and I wasn't gonna go off on this tangent, but now maybe I will a little bit. Um, I last year again, it was similar when I had my frustrations when I was worried the Winnipeg Jets weren't going to trade, someone like Andrew Kopp and this, that, whatever, if they were. Granted, the Winnipeg Jets got bad at the end of last year, so they missed the playoffs, which is great. So they sold, and that was fantastic. That's what I wanted them to do. But I don't believe in teams keeping self rentals if they're not fully planning on going and winning. And I don't think that the Minnesota Wild think that they're going to win the Stanley Cup this year. So to me, you don't keep the self rentals, you get rid of them. So I think they trade Matt Dumba. Everyone wants a defenseman. Did you say he's a right shot defenseman?
He is.
Man, everyone's looking for those guys. Those they don't grow on trees, right shot defensemen. So I think that he gets moved, and if you're the Minnesota Wild, you do what you can to get him out of there because someone will give the equivalent of a first round pick, if not a couple more pieces to that. Um, I had heard some like the links to Ottawa earlier in the year when people were talking about, Ottawa, the management showing the players that they're committed to this team and getting some players in. I actually really like the fit of Matt Dumba in Ottawa, but more in the sense of like sign there in the off season. I don't know how much sense it makes to sell off the farm to bring him in or anything like that. But that being said, we know that Ottawa has a lot of depth pieces when it comes to picks and prospects just due to how the last couple of years have gone for them. So I like that fit. I don't know if it's gonna happen. Um, I don't know. I could see maybe like a Toronto too, just because of how banged up they are on D. Um, but I'm really not sure. I don't have a lot of thoughts on Matt Dumba. I don't know if he's as good of a player anymore as he was a few years back. So I don't know if he's the solution for anything. But, the Jordy Bens become a hot commodity at the trade deadline. So someone like Matt Dumba, I'm sure, will be on the phones about. So I don't know. I'm leaning somewhere in the Atlantic over there, somewhere up there.
Yeah.
What do you
I
think?
I get what you mean about the whole like if you're not a I don't know how the Wild feel about themselves. I think that maybe they look at this year and they go, this might not be our year, but I think we're really shaping up for something good. But at the same time, they have like this weird goalie tandem with Fleury and Gustafson, where both goalies are kind of so-so. So I don't know, because like it makes not a lot of sense to, it really depends on where they feel they are in regards to the league. If they think that they can make a bit of a run this year, because again the West is kind of wide open, it makes sense for them to keep him. But also at the same time, like you said, you could get a lot for this guy, and I just don't see the Wild blowing the doors off on everything. I mean, you look at the standings and what's it called? Like they're still in fourth in the fourth, third. Let me see. Sorry, I lost my train of thought here. Um, they're still third in the Central. Obviously, Colorado's hot on their ass, and same with Nashville. But 56 points, 55 and 54 for all those guys. It's Minnesota, Colorado, Nashville at the moment. Um, but yeah, so I think at some point they got to look themselves in the mirror and say, like, is this our year? If it's our year, if we think we have a potential window we need to try and get with Marc-Andre Fleury, then maybe they go out and they make the big trade for like a Ryan O'Reilly or a Bo Horvat or whoever for centerman. But if not, like, yeah, Matt Dumba is still a really valuable guy. He's only 28 years old. He makes like what, $6 million, I think. And I'm just looking here. I was curious as you were talking there. I wanted to bring up his player card because in my mind, Matt Dumba is an offensive defenseman. He's a guy who play on your power play and is really good. I looked at his player card, his Don Lucian player card. He's in the 94th percentile of defense. I had no idea. He and only the 12th percentile of offense. So I look at that and I go, maybe the Jets.
Anyways, I want him now.
Yeah, maybe the Jets. I don't know. Like, I haven't seen how he plays in a while. I don't watch a ton of Minnesota Wild games. But if he's that valuable on defense, and that's the issue that the Jets have. I would love to see that as an option, maybe. But also, I think that's that's a fit for a team like a Toronto. If they can make the money work, I can see that being a fit for a Carolina, a New Jersey, any of these top teams. Even I can see a team that's kind of in their later years, like a Washington, kind of going out and maybe getting a D-man, especially one who's good defensively, because I know that's a thing. Whenever I see my Caps mutuals on Twitter, they are yelling and screaming about how no one can play defense on their team. So that's maybe a viable option. I would actually, now that I look at that, I'm actually really interested to see what happens with Matt Dumba. But anyways, that's enough. Shane Gostisbehere, Coyotes, left, right D. I think he's left-handed though. 29 years old, UFA at the end of the year. Shane Gostisbehere, the Ghost Bear.
Shane Gostisbehere, you are a Winnipeg Jet. I want Shane Gostisbehere as a Winnipeg Jet, and get Neil Pionk out of here. I think that he is a way better hockey player. And I also think that just because the NHL is the NHL, people will remember that Shane Gostisbehere was traded for free, that the Philadelphia Flyers paid someone to take him, and people are going to remember that before they remember that he's a good hockey player. So I have a feeling that the price for Shane Gostisbehere is not going to be as expensive as some of the other defensemen on the market and some of the other players in the market, frankly. Like, I know defensemen tend to go for higher than market prices at the trade deadline, more so than forwards, in my opinion. I have a feeling that he's going to be a team is going to get a steal with him, whoever ends up getting him. I don't know if he's on everyone's radar as much. I don't know if, again, it's Arizona, so it's hard, but he's been good since he's been there, I'm pretty sure. Like, I don't know. I want him though. I'd like him. Sure.
I like him as like a guy. I don't know if he's exactly what the Jets need. I think he kind of fills and maybe it's just because he wears number 14. He fills the Ville Heinola spot because he's he's a smaller guy. He's 5'11", 180 pounds. And I think that the Jets honestly are looking for a big guy who can really handle the front of the net. The hole that Dustin Byfuglien left in the Winnipeg. Anyways, that kind of thing doesn't, in my opinion, doesn't really, I don't think Ghost Bear fits what the Jets are looking for in a team. But at the same time, it is what it is. I could see him again. Same thing. I could see him going to like a Washington, a Pittsburgh, maybe even because with their kind of uncertainty with Chris Letang, and he's kind of been in and out with injuries, and they always have a ton of injuries. So I could see him going there maybe. And a thing that I thought about when we were talking about Matt Dumba, and I forgot to say, in regards to how I would potentially want the Jets to take him. maybe the Wild just want a guy with some term. Maybe there's a guy that the Jets have with a little bit of term who makes 5.5 mil. He's a right-handed D. I don't know. Maybe you could have a nice little hockey
From
trade.
near-ish to
You know,
Minnesota.
that's true. That's true. I don't know. We know how we always love our hockey trades. Where it's just players for player. That'd be really interesting. I doubt either team would do that though.
Yeah.
If only the NHL was actually interesting. They're not.
So real.
Anyways, move on.
Before we move on to the rest of the list and take a look at all those, we're getting near to our 15-player cap. I am willing to go off the board. We're following a list that Brady found at The Athletic. Shout out to them. It's a good list. It's got a lot of good names on there. Is there anyone in particular that maybe doesn't crack the top 15 that you want to particularly talk about a destination for?
Jesse Puljujarvi. We have to talk about Jesse Puljujarvi. He has to get moved at some point just because of the fact that like the Oilers just don't have the cap space to activate Kailer Yamamoto off of IR, unless for some reason something changed. And this is a couple weeks ago that this discussion came up. They need to shed like $2 million in cap basically to activate Yamamoto. Who's a guy who makes $2 million less than Jesse Puljujarvi is a left-handed D-man who is big. Logan Stanley. Obviously, again, I am so sorry. We can only do this from the perspective of a Jets fan. But I just think that it makes too much sense. The Jets need a middle six forward. They have too many defense. The Oilers want a D-man, need to shed salary. It makes too much sense. It makes too much goddamn sense.
The Jets need Jesse Puljujarvi, and the Oilers have a GM who is Ken Holland. The fit is there. It would work. That's the kind of player that Ken Holland would want. And I know it's kind of thing like if you're looking at just value of prospects or value of player, like whatever, it's very skewed. But you have to look at the decision makers. Who is on the phone in this case? I think Jesse Puljujarvi gets moved. I'm honestly surprised he hasn't already. I don't know what's gonna happen with this player, and I genuinely don't know if this player has a massive NHL career left, but the longer you wait, the more likely it becomes that he's never going to turn into anything. They got to move him out of there fast to save his career.
Yeah, I think eventually he has some sort of career once he moves and actually is able to play a normal, have a normal career and not be this weird guy who has such a spotlight on him. Yeah, he's kind of dangerously getting close to Jacob Chikrin level where everyone's like, oh, he's gonna get traded for a second, he's gonna get traded for this, he's gonna trade for that, and nothing ever happens, and we just sit here squawking about it for years. But I think he gets moved soon. I think that at some point the cap is gonna force the Oilers to make a move, and he ends up moving. I'm looking at the rest of our list here. There's only like 3 players I think I really want to talk about. Or 4. I'm just going to list them out, and you can tell me if you want to talk. If there's anyone else I missed on this list that you would like to add.
I only have one, so.
Okay, well, so there's JVR, Ivan Barbashev.
Yep, that's what I want to talk about. Okay, cool.
I don't want to talk about Edmondson, or we could mention him if we want. Tyler Bertuzzi, no, not really. Jordan Greenway, Gustav Nyquist, Nick Bukestad. I'm just reading through the list here. Let me know if there's any you want to talk about.
JVR is it. I don't care about the rest of them.
Okay, there's JVR, and then there's a couple I just want to do a quick hit on, and then you can add your thoughts if you want. JVR, do you want me to start? Do you want to start here?
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
So this is, I think I was telling Lyss this the other day. We were having a talk, and I was saying a weird guy who I actually surprisingly am like, maybe he's a Jets potential guy, is actually JVR, and I think that the conversation has kind of started on Twitter. Again, I'm sorry that I have to relate these back to the Jets, but I could see, before I go into my Jets part of it, I could see him going to, I could actually see a reunion with Toronto. I think that makes a lot of sense, considering they need a top 6 winger. I could see him potentially going to like a Carolina, because Carolina loves to just shoot the puck, and he's the type of guy who likes to bang and crash. So, if they're getting Brent Burns shots in from the point, why not have JVR in front?
Oh, yeah.
And then, yeah, I mean, like that makes a lot of sense to me. I could see him going to like maybe even a Dallas kind of thing, just add a little bit more of a scoring depth. But Winnipeg is one where I'm like, maybe they look at him, because the one thing that the Jets have done a lot this year, they've increased their scoring from the defensive end. obviously Morrissey has been a maniac this year, the amount of goals he has. But in general, the Jets like to create a lot of offense from, near the blue line, and then create chaos in front. And I feel like JVR is like the perfect kind of bang 'em home kind of guy. He's a guy who thrives off of the chaos. And I could actually see him being a decent fit here in Winnipeg, although his cap hit is pretty high. He's an interesting guy.
I want him. No, 100%. That's why I wanted to talk about him because, like you said, very our jet centric minds, like we lean more towards looking at the guys that on those lists that we think could be a fit with our team. I love James Van Riemsdyk. I would love to see him come to Winnipeg. I think that that's the kind of guy that if you're not able to win the sweepstakes of the Timo Meier sort of thing, that's the kind of guy who's like an underrated alternate option that's not, a Jordy Ben cop out, a Matt Hendricks cop out to play on your fourth line. No, it's a viable option to actually, make some noise and cause some damage out there. But it may be, if you can't win, it's like a Connor Bedard thing, right? Like if there's only one guy out there, you got to have some alternate options too. So, and to me, JVR is a nice fit in that capacity. And I'm of the mind that the Winnipeg Jets need a forward more than a defenseman. If anything, both would be nice. But that's why I want to talk about that player. And I think you 100% hit the nail on the head with the Carolina thing in particular. And any team that's going to be creating, those shot first from the blue line and not doing as much deep cycling, that's the kind of guy you want to bang those pucks in. And I think that's a great fit for someone like Carolina.
For sure. All right. The last guys I just want to mention very quickly. Again, because I think that these guys might have potential Jets connections. And then otherwise, I'm just gonna bang through these, and you can add your comments as you go. Joel Edmondson, absolutely not. Keep him away from my team. Another team can trade for him. He's a bum. The only thing good he's ever done is wear a crop top after winning the cup.
Real. I'm so glad you brought that up.
I knew you would. So if I didn't, so keep him away from my team. I'm sure I could see him going to like an Edmonton. Like that makes sense for Edmonton. Yeah. He's a UFA, not this year, but next. So you get a year and a bit out of him. Interesting. Tyler Bertuzzi, I think you can apply pretty much everything I said to. He's a Timo Meier, backup guy. If you can't get Timo Meier, Tyler Bertuzzi is a similar player, a winger, a top six winger. We're not going to talk about. Is he
allowed to cross the border now?
He's allowed to cross the border now. But yeah, I think that he fits to any of the teams that are looking for a top six winger. He's all right. I wouldn't hate if he joined the Jets, but I wouldn't be ecstatic. I think that there are much better players I would like a lot more than him. Yeah. I don't care about Jordan Greenway. Gustav Nyquist I don't care about, and I don't think that he's a good ad for most teams. But someone will want him for a bottom six scoring role. Not the Jets, please. Nick Bjugstad is an interesting one from the Coyotes. Again, same thing. He's kind of, I would put him in the same tier as a Taves kind of guy, where he's like a third line center on a good team, and can still be actually effective. Do you have any comments? Again, just jump in if you feel. Luke Shen is the last one where I'm like, really, I have a something to actually say. Luke Shen is exactly the archetype that the Jets are looking for, in my opinion. Like, they're looking for a big guy who can defend and be played in big minutes, has your leadership qualities. You won a cup with, the Lightning, which, apply whatever value you think to that. And I also think that he's not going to be that expensive. I think that he fits. If the Jets are going to add someone in that archetype, I actually don't mind Luke Shen. I think that he's a pretty decent defensive forward. I'm going to bring up his card here in a moment, and I'm going to look at it and probably be shocked that, and he's going to turn out to be bad. Do you have any thoughts on Luke Shen?
I didn't think it was that good. Yeah, I think that it's the kind of thing, like, you talk about the archetype, and I don't mind the archetype of the, net front defender, that kind of thing. I just get frustrated when people think they equate it with the way a player looks or anything like that. Like, if someone's heavy hitting on the boards, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're good at clearing that front and vice versa and all those kinds of things. So I just got frustrated when people see large player and therefore think good on body. Not always true. So if this player actually is someone who is good at tying up the net front and those kinds of things, maybe his area of strength isn't things like the breakup pass, this, that, whatever. I don't care. If he's actually good at that, I'll take him. That sounds fine to me. If it's people just say that because he has 6 points, so therefore it means he must be good at defense because he's not scoring, I don't want him.
Yeah, I think the big thing is the Jets don't need a big hulking defenseman to clear the front of the net. The Jets need defensemen who can, separate players from the puck and make breakout passes and then get the puck out of their end. Looking at his player card here from Don Lashishin, he's 47th percentile in offense, 28th percentile in defense, but his usage is 89%. So he gets used as a top like a top pairing D man, and his role on here is listed as a depth defenseman, so that is probably where he is, and it makes more sense. You know, Luke Shen, you think nowadays is a depth defenseman, especially when he was on, you know, Tampa, this and that. I think
he would be in Winnipeg too.
Yeah, and he's, you know, he makes like he's a almost a min salary guy, so
right,
and his market value is above that, so I think that's
Woo!
a guy who, if you're, you know,
Neil
making
Pionk can't say the same.
real, anyways, and then like that's the main last guy. Of course, Max Domi, same thing. He's just kind of another guy you can add anywhere. Dmitry Kulikov is a really interesting one for the Jets. I could see that reunion happening potentially. He's been good since leaving the Jets. It's almost like playing for the Paul Maurice Jets kills your career. Where is he even playing now these days? He's playing with the Ducks, right? Yeah. Anyways,
Him and Nathan Bolio. Woo!
Man, the Ducks love. It's so funny to see Pacific teams just picking up the Jets' trash on defense all the time. Both them and who else was it? What's his name? The Canucks. The Canucks taking Poolman and Myers and
Fire.
Anyways,
And Nick Patan.
Nick Patan. You are correct. But anyways, that's pretty much it for our trade bait board. This podcast has gone to 140. We didn't exactly hit the the 115 mark like I guessed. But
yeah, that was such a bad guess on your part. But...
Sorry, I thought we could maybe roll through quicker, but it's fine.
No.
Anyways, no game today. Jets play tonight. I'll be doing game over. By the time you listen to this, I'll probably have already done the game over. So come check it out. Check out both of us on Twitter at Lyss Hood and at NHL Chunky. Follow Can't Teach Size on TikTok, on YouTube. Subscribe, like the video, blah, 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 blah. You know the bits. Thank you all for tuning in. Lyss, did you have anything else you wanted to add at the end here?
Too much. I think, yeah, we kind of prefaced at the beginning that, you know, if you're wanting to chat with us more and all that kind of stuff, Game Over is the place to find us. That's where we're pretty regularly. You know, there's always at least one of us, sometimes both. So that's a great place to catch us, and we can chat about all things hockey. I'll probably find a way to bring up Nick Patan in those as well, so don't you worry. But we'll probably be, you know, using this platform more for the bigger picture stuff, you know, talking about the All-Star game, the trade deadline, that kind of stuff. So for that general stuff, you can always find us here. But if not, if you're a Jets fan, like I know most of our listeners are, that's where to find us. We thank you very much for the continued support with Game Over and with Can't Teach Size. It's a pleasure to connect with everyone. So
perfect. And yeah, and as Lyss said there, we're probably, just because of Game Over, and we kind of talked about this before, we're not going to be doing this bi-weekly or weekly as we once thought. So if you're listening now, just as a general bit, we'll probably be doing it after, you know, big things happen. So we'll probably have a show post trade deadline to break down all the moves. It was probably something in the before the off season, probably something in the playoffs. We'll see. We'll see how the schedule goes. But again, we do really appreciate you guys tuning in. This is a long enough outro, so thank you all for tuning in. Have yourselves a great day. Have a great week. Whenever you're listening to this, thank you all for listening. Have a good one.